Welcome to another episode of the Online Prosperity Experience podcast. You're about to hear your host, Prosper Taravinga's powerful digital marketing strategies and actionable tactics that you can use right now. Prosper has helped more than 50,000 people from over 10 countries to create meaningful businesses that are profitable and enjoyable. Listen to this podcast so that you too can build your own business with less stress and overwhelm. Let's get started.
How to make your virtual meetings work for you. I mean, unless you've been lying under a rock for the last 2 years, we've been etched or moved into making virtual meetings. And I'm supposing as a coach, consultant, or small business owner, you've had to, speak to some of your clients or speak to some of your vendors or suppliers using a virtual platform. Now, at the end of the day, this is something that is new, that has just been plonked, right in front of us. But I'm here to tell you that virtual meetings are here to stay. The technology that actually helps us hold virtual meetings has been around for a very long time. It's only the last couple of years that it's been accelerated. And, even when I started my business in consulting, I was using Zoom to actually connect with my with my prospects, the people that I was now ending up working with. The reason was I virtually created a home office, and I knew I didn't want to travel to go places. I didn't want to travel, to reach people, especially because I live a little bit further away from the city. So I discovered Zoom, and that now became the backbone of how I was communicating with my prospects. I even created a web series where I was engaging myself into a Zoom call with no one on the other end, and then I was recording that and downloading that video, and then edited to some of the videos that I was doing. I even started my podcast using Zoom, and I even have a online prosperity show where I interview other people over the Zoom platform, and we record that. We've created over 200 videos, so to speak. So I've been on the receiving end of virtual meetings, and I've also been on the giving end of virtual meetings. But the pandemic actually triggered an instant shift to a lot of remote working, remote networking, and overnight, a lot of businesses from all over the world were actually compelled to switch to something many have been resisting for a lot of years, which is working from home. I remember when I started my business, if I would show up on a Zoom meeting, in my home office, people would look at me twice and think, wait a minute, would this guy be able to handle our business? Up until I had to prove myself that I was a good, choice for our prospect to actually work with us. So now that has become a normal activity, and even kids are going to school on a Zoom platform. And churches are actually congregating on Zoom. So I thought it would be a very good time for us to actually maybe do a refresher course, or just to really look at what the etiquette is when it comes to these virtual meetings. Now, humor me, which one of these things has actually happened to you in your either last Zoom meeting or your Microsoft Teams meeting, where the speaker would have asked a question and then there's echo of crickets or that is very deafening behind the scenes, or you kept yourself on mute and the video was on while you're multitasking because everybody else is just doing it and no one is actually concentrating to the speaker who is speaking virtually. Okay, maybe that happens in like a group setting or things like that. Oh, maybe the meeting ended and you're not even sure why you wasted 58 minutes of your life, and that meeting could have easily been an email or any of the above things that I've mentioned. All right. At the end of the day, we are now living in a virtual world, where most of our meetings are going to be done through a screen. We actually did our financial planning for the year, me and my wife, and our financial planner over Zoom without us even having to leave our home, which means that virtual meetings are here to stay. All right. So I think it's fair to say that many of us have participated in a virtual meeting at least once in the last 18 months. We've had birthdays, we've had, virtual get togethers, even if it was not work related. There was some sort of Zoom connection that was done. So your question might now be, things are opening up. Do virtual meetings actually work? All right. So, just like everything in life, it has its advantages and its disadvantages, and virtual meetings are of no exception. I want to start looking at maybe the advantages and see what it is that you can actually start banking on, knowing that virtual meetings are here to stay. All right. One of the advantages that I know is you don't have to worry about room or space availability. I remember when we used to work in a co-working space, you had to book 3 or 4 days in advance if you wanted to have a meeting. And what happens when you've got these ad hoc meetings, when your clients just want to meet with you and there's no space to have a private conversation available, that your clients can come to. So with a Zoom meeting, you don't have to worry about that. You can literally just put yourself in a closed environment and have that one-to-one meeting without having to worry about space or availability of that meeting. And if you would also notice, we are now able to do Zoom meetings with over 500 people. Normally, back in the time, you'd have to hire a stadium, get everybody to schlep themselves to that place and coordinate people, organize security, organize food, organize entertainment, all of that stuff. These days, you just show up 10 minutes before your 500 person meeting and then just present whatever you're presenting, and you don't have to worry about how they're going to get back home or if anybody has lost their wallet, or announcing about Brandon, who has parked his car in front of Grace and now Grace wants to leave. Right. So it's often easier for people not to be in the office that day, but could still meet virtually. You used to have to worry about having everybody in the office at the same time so that you could conduct a meeting. And virtual meetings can actually offer substantial cost savings because people don't have to travel. Half of the time you used to have to pay for people's flights, people's Ubers, all of that stuff can just be eliminated by having a virtual meeting. And it's actually really easy to remove all that uncomfortable small talk and get to the point and actually speed things up. Having the meetings in place, you have to warm up people and, either throw a joke here and there just so that everybody is on board with what's happening, and start asking people if they read the memo, all of that stuff. But with a virtual meeting, you can skip the small talk, just get to the point and avoid long and strenuous, meetings. And there's also the pressure of declining to attend a virtual meeting doesn't seem so great, and you don't put people in an awkward position, than them having to show up at your office and then tell them, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't meet with you, when they've traveled all the way. Okay. And you don't, if you're on one and you don't like being there, it's either easy for you to just take yourself off screen and multitask or do something else without having to waste hours and hours of your time when you're not getting value, or if the things do not pertain to you. All right, especially when you're doing interdepartmental meetings. Sometimes your department is going to be further down the track, and what other departments are doing don't really affect your work. So you can catch up on whatever week's work you have while they're talking there. And you don't have to take minutes on a virtual meeting. You could actually just share the recording and people would actually get the right context of what was spoken about during that meeting. And with virtual meetings, you can be actually much more productive because it actually encourages you to focus because you are virtually present, and you're above all else, you're reducing the carbon footprint that comes along with it. All right. So there's so much that you can do for a person, who's running a meeting, but you can also make sure that it never happens to you, because if you're the person that's doing well, or if you're the person that has invited people to this virtual meeting, you want to make sure that people are actually having a good time and they are enjoying themselves, in order for them not to switch out. Okay, so one of the things that you can do when you invite people to a virtual meeting is please do not give too much content, because we're always competing for attention. And especially if somebody is in front of their computer, they've got ads popping up, they've got access to Google, they've got access to just about anything that could distract them. So the virtual world has made it an outright war. All right, talk less and smile more. All right, and get people as engaged and interacting with you as much as possible. Whatever time you would have allocated for your presentation, just cut it in half. All right, don't plan for too much content or killing people with slides or death by slide share or things of that nature. Don't plan for too much content. That means you must ruthlessly prioritize your message and create a message that is audience centered and ends in action. Because if you don't give people a call to action, then you would have just wasted their time. You could have just sent them an email and they would have just dealt with it at the time that was convenient to them. And don't forget to budget time for connection while you are, conducting a Zoom call. Either there's 2 or more people, or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 people. Leave space for small talk. All right, that way people can actually get engaged, because it's quite difficult for you to connect with people if you're not virtually in the same space as them. And too often, we become really focused on task versus relationship building, and we don't allow for the connection that we need as a team. Obviously, at the end of the day, there are also some disadvantages that come along with running virtual meetings. All right, there's death by Zoom. So many people are going in and out of Zoom calls that they're now jetted by those. So you want to be careful you're not overly subscribing your prospects or your team to be constantly be on Zoom and demanding of their attention, because we lose the face-to-face connection, which is so important to a lot of people. All right, so you want to be careful when you're conducting these virtual meetings, that some people still crave for that pounding flesh and sharing, laughing with other people and really feeling other people's energy. And technology can present an issue for some with unreliable internet connections. All right, so we are working with a lot of virtual people, and some of them are living in third world countries. So you can't expect people to always have their video on or to always be constantly connected, because maybe their internet connection is not as powerful or strong as yours is. So you want to be very mindful about that. And it's sometimes less easy to interact dynamically with others. There's some things, you can't download a hug. All right, if somebody's going through a hard time, they might just need a smile from somebody that they can actually see, and maybe a hug or just a tap on the shoulder. Or if somebody has done well, a virtual high five is not as good as being lifted by your colleagues for having rescued the company from going down. All right, no one can virtually be able to do that. Okay, so you also want to be mindful if your team sometimes craves to virtually meet and have that companionship. You want to be able to offer it to them. All right, and maybe sometimes you have a product or a prop and you want people to touch and feel it. It normally doesn't work, so you want to maybe limit your Zoom calls to things that you can present online. But if you have to do a physical presentation, try and find ways that you can reach out to the people and do it in person. Okay, and one of the things that is there's so many distractions, especially if people know that they're not being visible. All right, so sometimes when people's videos are not on, they are prone to be doing other work that is not related to whatever it is that you've called the meeting for. All right. So most of these things need to be put into light. And one of the things that I mentioned earlier on, death by slides. Okay, this has happened to a whole lot of us. So we're so focused on the content, and we need to get across to people, and we don't think about the experience of the actual listeners. Okay, engagement doesn't just happen. All right, you must engineer it. So after each section, add a discussion, pose a question in the chat, and then go to the gallery view to discuss with the team, add a poll, or use question and answers, because at the end of the day, you want to use also breakout rooms if you've got a bigger crowd of people that you have to engage. These kinds of practices can boost engagement, because if you're just going to share your screen and it's all slides and no face, let me tell you something, people will virtually switch off and connect with other people or other things that are vying for their attention. If you've been staring at the same slide for, say, 10 minutes, and maybe the speaker has moved to the next topic long ago, and there's still just one slide that is just there, people get really confused. And the problem is you're still staring at that same slide and you think that's what we're talking about. Okay, so if you're going to be presenting, don't end up with the wrong slide or the wrong scenario that is presented by what you're sharing. Okay, pro tip is, if you're saying something that you want to explain a whole long time than what is present on the screen, just stop sharing your screen. All right, so maybe if you've planned for engagement, try and engage people, and try, when you're explaining something, remove any screen share that might be happening. All right, just take a look around and see if people are actually engaged with what you're doing. All right, because if you just have your screen share there, you are also hiding, you're putting the screen between you and the audience or your people, and not a lot of people will feel like they are engaged when you're speaking to them there. Okay, and one thing that normally happens when we are on virtual meetings is we will encounter tech issues. So you gotta always have a backup plan for your tech issues. So if your computer fails to connect, you better be ready to connect on that meeting using your phone, instead of having to reschedule and asking people to take some other time again, throughout their busy days for them to connect with you. All right. So like I said, virtual meetings are here to stay. And obviously, if you are going to be a winner in this and close many sales and actually prove your authority to people, you're going to have to be able to conduct these meetings properly. And one of the things that I noticed that people don't do is they don't speak to the camera or talk to the camera. They are busy looking at their own photo or their own video, and most of the time you get distracted. Okay, something might be happening behind you in your background, and all of a sudden you start fixating on that instead of delivering the value that you came to deliver. Or you might have a virtual background, and then maybe something happens or you move, and then the virtual background disappears, and now you're frantic in trying to return it back to maybe whatever it was before. Okay, and have you ever noticed that in virtual meetings, many people just stare at the screen or stare at themselves in the screen, and it could be up or down depending on where they are in the context of this conversation. And in other words, they look at where everyone's faces are positioned on the screen, and then it just doesn't look like they're concentrating. Have you ever tried to speak to somebody who's not looking at you directly? You don't feel like you're being heard. And when you do that, it's easy to believe that you're making eye contact with the audience, but in reality it's not the case. So if you look into the camera and not the screen, you have maybe 60% chance of having some sort of eye contact, because people are looking at your picture when you're speaking. And half of the time, just ask the audience. Make a point to ask the audience or your team how they feel, what's on their mind. Or ask them for your opinions. It's not a podcast where you're hoping somebody would listen to you at a later date. You actually have these people, in real life. So when you share updates, whether they've got anything to add, or if they may need any help, or if they actually understood what it is that you're asking them, or what they have to share, or to add on to what you've just spoken about. The more you engage your audience, the more they're not going to ghost you or just put their photo there and they're not even, in present in the call. All right. Sometimes we get fixated on speaking, and we forget that maybe just using a very good microphone will make it super easy for people to hear us. If you're too far away from your laptop, okay, it sounds like you're speaking in a hole, and if people can't hear you, it makes it super hard for them to concentrate. So you need to invest in a proper microphone. All right. Poor sound in a virtual meeting or presentation can actually compromise your reputation and credibility. All right. You want to invest in high quality external microphone that will then filter any distractions and ensure that you're being heard clearly. Because if somebody can't hear you, they switch off, and the more they switch off, they obviously might just be doing other things, on their computer while they are, maybe listening to you, or you're actually selling to them. And do unto others what you want them to do unto you. If somebody's speaking, do not multitask. All right. It's very easy in virtual meetings to try and multitask. All right. Maybe you're writing or checking your email or looking at LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever big temptations that might come across. You might be tempted to respond to something, and maybe if you're not on mute, people can start hearing the click, the your keyboard clicking. All right. It's very distracting, and it's very disrespectful, because it's like chewing gum when elders are speaking to you. All right. And the odds are that if you're doing it, others will do it to you too. So avoid that temptation and ask others not to do the same, because monkey sees, monkey do. All right. If you can, obviously sometimes some people physically can't, but just ask people to turn on their videos so that you can relate to them. If it's within your gift and it's appropriate, all right, ask everyone to turn their videos on. The spoken word might elicit a greater effect, but we all know that a picture says 1,000 words, and video says 10,000 more words. Because when you're talking, your facial expressions can actually help to turn virtual meetings into real human conversations. Because at the end of the day, we are trained to learn how to read faces. All right, even as babies know if somebody is a friend or a foe just by looking at their facial expressions. So some people might be finding it difficult to grasp a new concept, but because of your body language and how your enthusiasm is being transferred, it might make it easy for them to actually understand what's going on. And that will also help you to involve and actually encourage everyone else, because if you see somebody getting lost or making facial expressions of them being confused, then you can actually reach out to them and help them immediately, okay, in order for them to have an understanding of what it is that you are delivering to them. All right. And once you start speaking, just promise that you will won't waste people's times. Okay. Because if somebody's in the comfort of their own home, you have already invaded their privacy. No matter if you're paying them, you are in their personal space. So whatever virtual meeting you're going to be doing with somebody, just be mindful of the environment that that person is in. Yes, you might be in the comfort of your own home, but that person is also in the comfort of their own home. No one will ever let anyone bring in a truck full of garbage in their living room just because somebody's paying them for that. All right. So you want to be mindful of people's spaces. You want to be respectful, even if you just think you're the only person there, you might speak in a language or a tone that they think automatically transfers to their ego, or maybe somebody in the next room hears you yelling at them or shouting at them, and that just doesn't sit well with them. All right. There are husbands out there that have their kids in the next room or their wives in the next room. They are the father of that household, and if you, as the manager or their boss or their coach or their consultant, belittles them, they might retaliate in a way that you don't understand, because for them, they are the father figure of that household, and they don't want that that to be tarnished, even if you have every right to be doing that. All right. So at any given point, you gotta be mindful and respectful and know that this person is in their own home turf. All right. And at the end of the day, just be clear and set an intention and a reason why you are on that call with somebody, or why you're having that virtual meeting, so that people understand what they're going to be achieving out of it, because some meetings would just rather be an email. So make it worth their while. And one other thing that I mentioned, besides just having a microphone, lights, camera, action. All right. Check before every virtual meeting. Ensure that you're in a comfortable place, and you've got good lighting, good sounding, and your screen can share, and you haven't got more distracting things on your browser there. All right. I've got this big problem of opening too many browsers at once, and when I go to share my screen, I just share whatever screen is open at that particular time. Try and just utilize one website at a time, so that you're not distracting your people with all these open browsers, and people are not there to be distracted. They just really want to get whatever information you brought them there for, in order for them to make sense of the world around them. All right. So obviously, I don't know if you've seen or noticed, I'm African, so I'm a little bit dark. I always ensure that I've got lights, whatever call I get on, even during daylight, just so that there's no dark hues around my face or whatever it is, and give people that awkward squint, so that they can actually see my eyes to see if my eyes are open or whatnot. Okay. Make sure you've got ample lighting, you've got a really good atmosphere, and you actually show people that you prepared for this call, instead of you just waking up and showing up. And which gets me to the next tip of just make yourself look good. Even if you're on a virtual call, you want to dress appropriately, okay? Because everything that we do matters. How you look matters. How you dress matters. Because how you feel will obviously translate in the energy that you pass across to the people that you're speaking to. All right. So yes, you might just have one meeting, but that person wants to know that you actually prepared for that meeting with them. So dress appropriately and make sure that you have a suitably professional or neutral background, so that you're not too distracting. I've got a background with a bookcase behind the scenes, and I'm hoping that if somebody's having a meeting with me, they are rest assured that this person knows what they're talking about, because they have all these books that they might be reading. All right. So you want to ask that off of the people that you're going to be meeting as well. And show or lead by example, because half of the time people mirror our body language. If we are disheveled and we are not showing up on time and all of those things, our teams and our customers will also mirror that for us. Okay. So above all else, make sure that you're prepared thoroughly for these meetings. Spend as much time preparing for these virtual meetings as possible, and get to know your audience and who they are, how much do they know about the topic in question. And when you arrive at that call, just set a clear objective. What do you want to achieve at the end of the meeting? Set a clear intention. What do you want your audience to feel at the end of the meeting? And share as much context and background information before the meeting as possible, so that when you do meet up with people, it's not a matter of having to start from the beginning and tell them in advance what you're hoping to achieve, so that your meeting just then actually becomes that the last thing that they actually want. All right, so at the end of the day, just make it fun. All right, these meetings are here to stay. Relax, lighten up, and don't take yourself too seriously. All right, encourage others to do the same. And if you need a little bit of help to make your virtual meetings work, maybe start reading a lot of books, book yourself into some sort of public speaking course, invest in a good coach, and give yourself some excellent presentation training, because this is the way of the future. And a lot of people are getting used to this new frontier of connecting with others. And if you would notice, there's so many other platforms. So you want to make sure that you are familiarizing yourself with at least 2 or 3 of these platforms, because you never know which ones your customers or your prospects are happy to connect with. All right. So at the end of the day, we're here to live, we're here to learn, and we're here to contribute. And we can do it virtually, without ruining the earth. We can do it virtually, without worrying about space or availability of rooms for us to conduct our meetings. And we don't have to travel to meet with our audiences, which makes it easy for us to actually expand and reach global audiences, where we can help people be, do, and have a happier existence. I can't wait to be on a virtual meeting with you. And if you're keen on joining one, just go onto our website, www.livelongdigital.com.au/OPB, and schedule yourself a virtual meeting with me. I can't wait to see you on the other side. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, let's continue the conversation in the Live Long Digital community. Become a Live Long Digital community member today. This community is for ambitious entrepreneurs and small business owners with the drive to take control of the future of their businesses and achieve huge success without stress and overwhelm. As you heard, Prosper can help you by teaching you marketing strategies that work. So look no further than the Live Long Digital community of entrepreneurs and highly successful business owners. Join our community today. Find us on www.community.livelongdigital.com.au. Network with other driven entrepreneurs and find the expert guidance you need to take your business to the next level. www.community.livelongdigital.com.au.